This is 6:30. We can call to order.
Yeah, sorry. We had a technical difficulty with being able to start Zoom early. I had to reboot everything, so give me a minute.
Okay.
You're mandated by the state to have virtual.
Yes.
So
We almost had to cancel this meeting because it was just like a black screen when I tried to start everything.
Well, then we'll just start.
okay.
Okay, so we call to order. We'll start out with topics from the floor. It's limited to 5 minutes per topic. Does anyone have a topic they would like to speak about? It's not on the agenda. No? Okay. It is now 6:31 PM. The public hearing is now open.
Since we just got on to Zoom, would it not be prudent to actually let people get on to the
Yeah.
website a little time? So, if anybody on Zoom would want to chime in.
Yeah, give me a minute. Yeah.
Pause a moment. We're gonna wait for the side from these guys.
And just wanted to let you know, Reed Herman is here on Zoom.
No visitor comment.
What?
No comments.
No comments. Okay. Okay, so this is a quasi, sorry.
Were there any corrections to the minutes from?
Steve Toski on Zoom. Did we do public comment?
Oh, we did, but nobody was here. So I'm sorry. Thank you, Angela. So the meeting minutes stated.
I'm here for public
Aye.
comment. So before we open the public hearing, can I make public comment, please?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. This is Steve Toski, citizen of St. Helens. And I'm sorry I'm late. The hyperlink was not active on the Zoom information for the city. So I came on last minute. Thank you very much for hearing me. There's a few important matters before our city. Tomorrow you have the meeting with the city council. And I really think that we need to be moving forward with our agenda on how to address blight. There is a blighted property on Columbia Boulevard that has its windows broken out and has been boarded up for more than 5 years. And as a person who's been coming to St. Helens for more than 35 years, I can attest to the deep depression that St. Helens experienced during the job losses following Trojan shutting down and the mills shutting down. There was a long time where it took any commerce at all to take hold in limited fashion in St. Helens. We're living in a different environment now where we have a robust economy and we're really connected quite strongly to the Portland economy, more so than ever before. And we cannot have blighted buildings on our commercial boulevards and in our city. We need to move forward with a plan to address that. It's very important. Second thing I'd like to address is tomorrow's joint conference with the city of St. Helens. The development of the HUD housing has caused a great negative impact on our schools. And we need to continue to move forward with making sure that St. Helens moves in the right direction as far as economic recovery is concerned. And our economic plan is for nicer developments. And that's another reason to move forward with this blight issue tomorrow. There is something on the agenda about ATV. There might be a discussion where they want the planning commission to study ATVs on the roadways. And I've done some preliminary research on it. And I think that if the planning commission is going to be in charge of this, one of your duties is to ensure public safety. And although it may be desirable to have ATVs on the roadway, I'm looking at some statistics and some Google information. It says ATVs on the roadway are a significant danger to the people who are in the ATVs because of rollovers. And if they're involved in collisions, there's very serious injuries that can occur. So I think that if there's going to be a study of whether to allow ATVs on the roadways, safety considerations need to be adequately addressed, and that would include experts on the subject. We don't want to be passing laws that are somehow going to allow people to get harmed. And last, and I thank you again for your time, as far as the old Grace's Antiques property, Rob and I have decided that we are going to be patient and allow the grace that this planning commission stated it wanted to do, at least in the tie. The planning, the head of the planning department stated that he, in his judgment, thought it was the best thing to do. And I do think, though, that there is some precedential value to this decision if it should go forward. And, you know, if they're able to get the use for the property. And so right now, our intention is that if they move forward and get the property built and it looks nice, we have no intention of moving forward at all with any LUBA appeal. And wanted to let you know that it's purposeful. And it balances all of the different considerations, including that we don't really have a parking plan for the downtown. So thank you very much. I wish you well in the meeting tomorrow with the city council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in public comment.
Thank you. Do we have anybody else? No. Okay, so we want to review the minutes from the planning commission meeting from August 12th of 2025.
And it's
Didn't have any changes.
no changes for me.
You have a motion?
Make a motion, we accept them.
Second it.
Okay. So how do you vote? Commissioner Kingsbury?
Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Herman?
Aye.
Okay.
I'm
sorry?
Rosengard's there as well.
Oh, sorry, David. Commissioner Rosengard.
No problem. I was waiting in the Zoom waiting room, so I've been there for the last 5 minutes or so. What are we eyeing on?
Just the minutes.
I was not there, so I will abstain from commentary on those minutes.
Okay. Okay, so now we'll move on to our public hearing agenda. It is 6:38 PM. The public hearing is now open. This is a quasi judicial land use hearing. The subject of this hearing is a request for a subdivision preliminary plat, SUB.1.25, subdivision variance V.1.25, sensitive lands permits SL.1.25, SL.2.25, and SL.3.25. The subject property is identified on the county assessor's map as the property adjacent to the east side of 1054 Oregon Street. On map 5N1W-33-700, 5N1W33AD 1900 and 1901. The applicant is North 8th Street LLC. The owner is Sean Clark and Dina Womack. Because quasi judicial proceedings require the observance of certain procedural formalities, we will take a few moments to cover some preliminary matters and required statements. Does any member of the commission wish to declare a potential or actual conflict of interest or bias in this matter?
I'm not sure if the same Sean Clark is the one that is the port executive director.
That's the Sean Clark there.
Oh, okay,
He looks different than the Port Sean Clark.
yeah, he does. And he has a different spelling for his name, but I just thought it might have been misspelled. I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay,
So I have none.
then.
None.
Does any member of the commission wish to declare any ex parte communications or site visits?
Nope.
Okay. Does anyone from the audience object to the ability of a commissioner to make a fair decision? Generally, the order of proceedings will be as follows: required statements, staff report, applicant's presentation, those in favor of the application, neutral testimony, those opposed, rebuttal by applicant, final questions, close of the record, deliberations, and decision. The following statements are required to be made at the commencement of the hearing pursuant to the city code and ORS 197.7975. The following is a list of applicable substantive criteria for this decision. Subdivision preliminary plat, SHMC 17.136.060, subdivision variance, SHMC 17.136.120, sensitive lands permit related to significant wetlands, chapters 17.40 and 17.132 SHMC, sensitive lands permit related to steep slopes, SHMC 17.44.0401, sensitive lands permit related to drainage ways, SHMC 17.44.0402. All testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed toward the applicable substantive criteria as directed or as described, or other criteria in the comprehensive plan or land use regulation which the person believes applies to the decision. Failure to raise an issue, including constitutional or other issues relating to the proposed conditions of approval in this hearing in person or in writing, or failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the approving authority an opportunity to respond to the issue, precludes appeal to LUBA, the Land Use Board of Appeals, on that issue, and precludes an action for damages in circuit court. So that is the end of our preliminary matters and required statements.
Thank you, Vice Chair Cisco. Let's Control L. So I just want to run through some slides to introduce this issue. This is a reboot of a preliminary plan development that was approved in 2022. Reboot is because
Can you increase that? Make it bigger so we can read it?
what we can do.
Can't read it from back here.
And some of it's not intended to be read word for word. Still part of the record. And that should make sense for my explanation. So this is a reboot, like I said, land use decisions are valid for a certain amount of time for something to happen. This has been kind of a complex one, so things didn't happen as fast as hoped. One thing that we do have on this property is an adopted plan development overlay zone. And that's the reason I added this table, not really to get into all the details of the table itself, but to acknowledge the fact that the overlay zone persists and it's a tool to allow flexibility in certain development standards when there's funky things going on with the property. A good example in this case is the adjustment of minimum lot size, which is normally 5,000 square feet to 3,690 square feet, something allowed by the plan development overlay standards. So I should note that lot coverage doesn't change. There's some other adjustments from for some setbacks and stuff like that. The point is, these were the same standards proposed back then. They're the same standards proposed now. Wouldn't be possible without that overlay zone. And so that's enough of the table, and that's in the record for anybody who wants to really look at all the variations proposed. So this next sheet is the general plan sheet showing you the property. So we're around 24 acres. And one thing that is particularly noteworthy is just the massive amount of open space. And that's due to the wetlands. And really, this is the ultimate example of why we have these plant development overlays. A property that may be impractical to pencil, may be practical to pencil with these flexibilities. Another thing you may notice is a pretty long cul-de-sac, the extension of 9th Street. This is the reason for the subdivision variance. So normally A cul-de-sac would be limited to a length of 400 feet and 20 lots. In this case, it's over 1,000 and 44 lots. And it's really just based on all those wetlands. How do you get the developable portion to work? And that's ultimately the layout that they selected. So I should note this results in the extensions of North 9th and 8th Streets. Which you can see there, you can see a little bit of a block completion on the southern portion. Note that 10th Street is over there to the left. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The Crestwood Manufactured Home Park, you can see those polygons on the north side as manufactured homes. So we have Crestwood there. And then the Public Works shops, both city and county, are on the west side. Back in 2022, the Planning Commission recommended that construction traffic to develop the subdivision go through the one of those properties. And they did get some permission, although, you know, it's been a bit, so they'll probably need to get new permission. And that would be to spare the residents on Deer Island and 9th and 8th, at least construction activity of the subdivision. So the next sheet is just the existing conditions. And you see a lot of topography and a lot of wetlands. Well, it's kind of a little complex site to develop. The next sheet is the utility plan. So water from 9th and 8th Streets can simply be extended. Water is pressurized. But sanitary sewer depends on gravity. And that's why utilizing the sewer from 8th and 9th is impractical because the sewer is too shallow. So you'll see a line there in the upper right-hand corner coming off the cul-de-sac going to another street, and that is Madrona Court. You see another cul-de-sac over there, completely separated from this neighborhood right now. They're proposed to connect to the sewer line over there. And the sewer line extension will also be a pedestrian path. So people in this development will have their own open space, and then they'll have a little better route to places like Temple Gardens, one of those less loved parks in town. And then there's a whole lot of stormwater facilities in there too, if you look closely. The next sheet is just the grading plan. Shows you the layout more. And then the next sheet's the sanitary sewer plan. About that, so you know where that's coming. So the next slide, now we're getting off. The sheet shouldn't be so big going forward. So one of the things that we talk about in this report are the existing conditions of 9th and 8th Streets. 8th is a more modern street. It was developed. Well, it was developed when I got here in 2007, but it hadn't been developed very long. 9th Street is much older. 8th, you have sidewalks. The street segment in the right of way is centered and very defined. 9th Street, you have this pretty wide 80-foot wide right of way. And for some reason, the paved portion of the street kind of skews to one side. And so we want to make sure that 9th Street is buttoned up so it transitions to paved roadway transitions to the center of the right of way. You know, some of the people who live on the east side of 9th Street who enjoy a pretty large gravel shoulder, large enough to park an RV, may lose some of that extra shoulder because of that. So that's a new condition based on something that we observed with this reboot. So the next slide is an excerpt from the staff report, and it shows the cross-section of the street proposed. So all new street segments are based on this local cross-section. And the reason I wanted to show this, in part because we had some comments from Columbia River Fire and Rescue about parking and obstruction concerns. And so we wanted to make sure you were aware of what standard was being proposed. We do have certain skinny street standards where the right of way is narrower, the street is narrower, but that's not proposed here. This is the basic cross section where you have on-street parking on either side. 7 feet is allocated for that, leaving you with a 20-foot wide road section. Columbia River Fire and Rescue had some comments. I think they may have been fooled by an 8-foot wide on-street parking, which was shown on some of the preliminary plans. Although if you really look at the notation on those plans, it's identified as just conceptual, just to kind of visually show the parking there. But they were concerned about potential evacuation. We'll get into their letter a little bit more. I should say, though, we already have conditions about no parking for the end of the cul-de-sac, because that total radius is what they need to maneuver a fire apparatus. You don't want parking there. Also built into the 22 decision, which is still here, are sprinkler systems for the units built on the cul-de-sac past where 8th and 9th Street come together. There's fire code that talks about when you have a situation with the number of lots only having one access, you kind of have to think a little bit more aggressively, and that's where that sprinkler system comes into play. So city engineering commented on this reboot proposal, and that's the next slide, and actually several pages. They talk about the 9th Street transition that I mentioned. They talked about the fire marshal, and their comments on that was either had no parking or revised as a. Now, back in 2022, when we reviewed this subdivision, it was right before it was at the top of our consciousness and staff, the implications of our sanitary sewer problems as they relate to development in the city. You will see nothing in the 22 report that talks about that. Now we've had several years of dealing with it. And it's something that we asked the council when it became an issue. Okay, well, council, what do you want to do? Do you want to halt development with a moratorium because of the sewer issue, or find an alternative net? So did not want to halt development. So we devised this fee structure. So we don't need to deny the development. It's a fee mechanism per dwelling unit. Now, we've been talking about this for some time. Being anticipated project completion for some of our broader sanitary sewer issues is 2027. It's possible that if this subdivision is constructed and home building, the timing of the home building is such that it may be so close to completion that we feel we don't need to charge that fee. But the fee is because of the citywide sanitary issues. What those are, many of our systems have not been upgraded in some time, decades. We have seen a lot of growth in decades. And because of the undersized nature of the conveyance infrastructure, there is the potential of surcharge. Surcharge means sanitary sewer is on the streets. Not a fun thing. And something that DEQ likes to fine for. So it's a big deal. Another issue that came about with this review, which was not identified in the sanitary sewer master plan is Pump Station 5. Pump Station 5, sanitary sewer Pump Station 5 is on Madrona Court. And if you recall, that sewer extension to the northeast, that's being directed towards Pump Station 5. Our wastewater treatment supervisor noted that right now during storm events, that pump station is on the verge of overflow. And so another problem where we don't want sanitary sewer to be in places it's not intended to be. We have conditions in here to try to solve that problem. Another thing that the engineering report talks about are Columbia County's comments about water backup. Columbia County commented as a abutting neighbor. And they were concerned about the fill on the subject property being above grade from their property and potential water backup for drainages. And so we want to make sure that the drainage plan addresses that. It's possible it addresses it now, but we want to make sure that was in there to at least have a second look. So Columbia River Fire and Rescue concerns, this is a few engineering report at several pages. Okay, so the fire department. The fire department had bottleneck concern. And it's possible that their memo was done in a hurry. They don't have a dedicated fire marshal anymore. So you have the fire chief doing double duty as the chief and marshal. There was some things in the letter that made me think it was done hurriedly. One, it talks about 500 residents and the concern about evacuating that many people. Just counting it this afternoon, there's 46 lots on the cul-de-sac, multiplying that by 2.59 persons, which is the average household in the last several years is about 120 people. So a little less than 500. And then they also didn't think that the cul-de-sac met the turnaround standard. But it does. We didn't have a lot of communication with them. We got the memo. I know our building official was going to talk to them about it. I don't know what came after that. So the evacuation concerns, the no parking on one side. It's something to talk about. It may not be based on the most accurate data though. The next slide is the existing conditions sanitary sewer map. So you see a lot of red on there. And it's the orange and red, which are at or above capacity. And this is existing conditions. So you see a whole lot of red and orange. And some of the problem areas for this property is actually 4th Street. You can see the wastewater treatment plant just to the left of the end of Sabi Island, which is just to the left of the bottom corner of the legend there. And 4th Street, just north of that, is the path that the sanitary sewer from the subject property goes to the treatment lagoon. And we have some issues there. So that's where some of that surcharge issue is at. Okay, next slide. This is a discussion we had back in 2022. I just want to remind or refresh the commission. How many of you were here for that last one? Maybe not.
None of us. Maybe Dave.
So it's good to talk about this stuff again. So if we look at the abutting rights of way, 6th and 7th Street, there's a canyon there, so there's no way in heck that would be extended. We have 8th and 9th Streets, which are proposed. There's the trail up by Madrona. And we talked about, well, what do we do with 10th Street? And the decision from 22 was for a pedestrian connection to 10th, and still makes sense. The discussion we had back then, should we have a street? Should we have a path? What do we want to do with 10th? And the pedestrian path still makes sense. I don't have any different recommendation. Of course, if you disagree, you can talk about that. And then the next slide, this is something also from 22 that talks about the existing conditions of 9th, 10th and 8th streets. The main thing from this is the paved roadway width exceeds 20 feet in all cases. And in some cases, you have a pretty wide gravel shoulder. I thought this would be good to talk about, just given some of the obstruction concerns. If 9th Street, for example, had a 10-foot roadway, we'd probably need to talk about that. But the roadway width is sufficient for two-way travel. The next slide simply shows another view of the various wetlands on the property. A whole lot of wetlands there. Fortunately, at least for me, not the applicant, the city's significant wetlands are on the far east side. And so the city wetlands were the culprit of pain the other wetlands and dealing with the variety of agencies, including DEQ, DSL, and the Army Corps. If we go to the next slide. So back at in the early stages of this development, there was some boo-boos. And some of those boo-boos occurred with some of the tree clearing. Some trees within the protection buffers were removed. They're identified on here, and we just want to make sure that's mitigated as part of the development. So we are recommending approval, just like in 2022, with some changes, primarily dealing with sewer and the pump station. We can talk about no parking and stuff like that if you like. And of course, there's probably some testimony which may help guide the conversation as well. But I think that's enough of my blabbing.
Okay. So please remember that we can ask questions at this time, but cannot deliberate until after the public hearing is closed. That said, does the commission have any questions of staff?
I do have a question. I think this would count as a question, not a deliberation. Do we have the ability to correct some of the numbers that Columbia Fire was relying on and ask them for a reassessment? I'm in particular thinking about their concerns related to evacuation. I agree that it probably sounds like 100 some people is way less than 500, and that would make a difference, but it would be nice to have them confirm that that would make a difference.
Yeah, we could. I think the probably the best method for that, so you could include any potential revised comments as part of your decision and being in the record, would be to continue the hearing to a date and time certain to next month to afford time to try to obtain that.
Would we not conditionalize it, that it does comply? Wrong with it?
You could, but if you're conditioned it to comply.
Well, I mean, you're saying that it does comply. It appears to be, just so that we can. I'm sure these folks want to get on with it if we can.
Yeah, if sure, absolutely. Yeah, the one thing that doesn't apply is the length of the cul-de-sac, and that's why you have the variance approval.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the street width, the 20-foot roadway width, which the fire department noted as being important.
And then why would the length be such a critical determinative issue?
Why?
Yeah. Because you're saying because the length exceeds. And I'm wondering why that length what exactly is the issue having it that length?
I think from the fire department perspective, the more lots you have, the more different owners, personalities, and perceptions on things. The more probability you could have people that have a lot of cars, have a lot of obstructions. I just think that extra length potentially increases the probability of a problem. I'm not saying
Okay.
it gets a problem, but that's one, I think, one way to look at
The
it
issues,
from an
yeah.
emergency response standpoint.
Also, the original town plat, does that 8th, 9th and 10th Street, do they continue on north from what they are? Or they're terminated right now?
They're, they don't in right of way form or physical form. And they are not shown to be extended in the transportation systems plan. And usually the transportation systems plan focuses on higher classified streets, so wouldn't necessarily focus on local streets. So simply a situation where you have a couple streets stubbed to the subject property and those streets are being extended.
And then you were saying that on the 9th Street that there's a kind of a choke point on it. And then that, trying to center that right away. You're just talking about enlarging the road?
Yeah, it's not a choke point, but it's the fact
Kind
that
of.
the roadway is skewed
And it's narrow.
side. So if the road on the subject property side was centered, but then the other roadway is over here, it's not gonna work too well.
No.
So
Well,
we wanna make sure that 9th Street transitions to meet up with the centered roadway within the subject property.
But that where it offsets, isn't it narrower there?
I don't follow.
Well, where it does the wow and it has, it's offset, right? You're
It's-
saying
Well, it's offset,
where it's offset, is it narrower than what is,
the right of way,
There.
the right of way is 80 feet there.
okay,
And topography is pretty level, and so I think there's a lot of flexibility in where that road goes. I don't, the transition should be feasible.
and then with the property owners that are on that area that could be widened, and they purchased the property, they bought it with that idea that the road was still there, that it could be 85 feet right there then and centered.
Possibly, I don't know if any folks are here that live on that street, they might be able to attest to that.
I'm just thinking about the impact of those folks. Just if they, had purchased the properties with the idea that this was, the property line was wherever. And it was shifted.
See, yeah, I mean, people, it's common-ish for people to not understand the property lines well. Some people are good at it. I think that the big issue will be some of those people may enjoy the convenience of the extra wide shoulder, which allows parking of things like RVs, which we could see in that aerial photo.
Okay, then I think I might not have caught it, but I mean, this was also, we've been flagged up in 2022, would it not? And why wasn't it adjudicated at that time?
Because when you have more time, because in 22, we were looking at it from scratch.
Yeah.
That's this much stuff. We are human beings with a certain amount of capacity and a lot of other things we're dealing with. Now, with the reboot, we've thought about all this stuff. Oh, all of a sudden we have capacity to think about other things. And so I'm looking at this and I'm looking at the street going, son of a gun, this transition thing needs to be.
I'm not trying to single out anybody or anything like that. I was just wondering if.
Yes, it's the nature of the beast. It's the nature of the beast. So honestly, I saw that. I'm like, hey, engineering, have we talked about this transition? This is going to be an issue. Oh, no, we didn't. So now we are.
Anybody else have questions?
I had a question on the transportation impact study. There is a note on here about it being continue to operate acceptably through the 2023 site build out year. Is there any actual expiration date to the transportation study, or is that just kind of a projection?
We allowed them to use the original traffic study from 22. Because there were no identified functional impacts. And there hasn't been substantial growth in the area that would have changed it. It's something that you could beat them up on. But we did allow that under the circumstance. A good question.
Does anybody have any other questions?
Public testimony.
Okay, so now does the applicant have a presentation?
And so for you folks, it'll be the applicant's presentation, and then you'll have an opportunity speak in favor, neutral, or in opposition to that.
How you doing? My name is Sean Clark. I'm the managing member of the LLC. We've been in this project for a long time, guys. Long time. And I think the goal for everybody, I would assume for you guys and for us, is to try to provide some affordable housing, right? Talk to people all day long, can't afford it, can't get into it, too expensive. You know, we made a lot of concessions when we originally did this plan. It was supposed to be 99 homes. We scaled it back. We tried not to touch the wetlands. We did what Army Corps wanted. We did what DSL wanted. We did what DEQ wanted. We did what St. Helens wanted, right? This was fine when it was approved back in 2022. And now it just seems like we're looking at the requirements, which, you know, it is what it is, right? The Madrona Court issue, which we knew, right? Has, you know, some pumping stations. I'm not looking to squander on it if that's what it takes to make it right, you know, to do a nice pumping station, because obviously you don't want sewage flowing into your streets. But I think just in the whole scope of this, as you look to make your decision, is I just think if we're not reasonable about this, these homes can't become affordable. And I'm just trying to the costs between the STC fees and the sewer fees. And the things, they all add up. They do. They all add up in the end. And at this point, we're just trying to get the project done, get a product out there that everybody could enjoy, use a small part of 24 acres, which is a large parcel for only 66 homes. And just make it good for the community. So that's really what it comes down to. Nothing more, nothing less. Obviously, it's in your hands, but I think we've done everything on our power, you know. We've conceded to everything that the city, Army Corps, DSL, the permit fees, everything. We've done it all. So there's not really, this is not like, you know, I'm not saying anything, but I would like to finally get the product to the end user and let them enjoy it. It's a beautiful place down there. It really is. It's got, you know, nice wetlands. It's got beautiful trees. People are excited that I've talked to that I said that we're developing it. So it's nothing more than that. Do you have anything, Chase?
We did receive, I guess, the Columbia County had a concern with stormwater from their property kind of coming onto the west side of this property. Specifically, I wanted to address that, I guess. We currently have proposed on that grading plan to match the existing grades along the western property line and then have that water sheet flow or flow to the east. And then obviously, if it did make it to that point, get to the into 9th Street there, we would not be creating any sort of berm or obstacle to create a ponding issue on the Columbia County Public Works property. But if there are other issues that we haven't presented, you know, with this or the plans themselves, then be open to hearing it.
And we're okay to put up no parking signs on the street. Park on the street if that's what the fire department wants. That's what it is, you know, and people can know ahead of time if they're gonna purchase the property that they won't be able to park their whatever on the street. They will have parking spaces in their own driveway, but I'm okay with that.
Okay. And I'm sorry, would you please state your name for the?
Yeah. Chase Berg with Oracle Engineering.
Comment?
You will have your chance.
Right for that. So if you, are you guys all?
Yep.
Thank you. So now we are requesting testimony in support of the application. Do we have anybody in support of the application? Okay. We are now requesting neutral testimony, those who are not in favor or against, but may have comments. Not in favor or against, just have comments? Okay, then please state your name for the record.
My name is Russ Clark. I live at 245 Madrona Court. My concern is, and I have nothing against affordable housing. My concern is that pump station is right across from where I live. And if that's not going to be fixed prior to this development going in, I do not want literally sewage in my front yard or running down the street. Is there a plan to get that done before this development comes in?
Yeah, we have a proposed condition. And that condition, and it's a good question, and
It's a great question because I do not want literally shit running down in front of my street.
it's probably not what you bought the house for.
No.
And so to avoid the number 2 on the street. One of the conditions, and this is a condition prior to acceptance of a final plat. So we're talking about the preliminary plat. The final plat is towards the end. And the final plat is the document that gets recorded. When it's recorded, now you have your lots you can sell. So before we accept the final plat for review, including in all the civil plans, improvements to sanitary sewer pump station number 5 to be able to accommodate the proposed development, for example, without overflow. So it is built into these draft conditions as something prior to home development.
So if we approve this, how soon will I see someone down there working on that plan? I mean, it's at capacity now. So, add 2 more houses, what's gonna happen just with 2? I mean, like I said, I am not against affordable housing. We need affordable housing. I have no doubt about that, but I am concerned with that. The other one I'm concerned with is this walkway. How much of that wetland is going to be destroyed as you doing that access through there to create the walkway, that walkway? And what is the walkway's purpose? To join Madrona to this other subdivision?
Yes. Yeah, community connectedness.
And what are you gonna do to ensure that we don't end up with homeless in that area, just like they do by the mobile home park?
That'll
That walkway
be the responsibility of the homeowners association of the development.
I mean, those are my biggest 2 concerns, but really the sewer one just, that chaps my ass. Okay,
Do we have any other neutral testimony?
I'm Joanne Rockwell. I live on North 8. And my concern is you were talking about a bottleneck, I think on 9th, you mentioned. When you come into 8th Street from Deer Island Road, that first block is a straight shot. When you enter the cul-de-sac, it is the biggest bottleneck, just like this. Of course, people live on both sides of the street. In the cul-de-sac and before you get to the cul-de-sac. So my concern is, first of all, how is all of this going to happen on North 8th Street, getting through heavy equipment, getting through residents' vehicles parked on both sides? How do you get through that bottleneck area? Because as of now, when there are people parked on both sides, 1 car only can get through there. I've had a problem getting home at night.
Yeah, if we go back, that's identified on one of these. I'm pretty sure I know what you're talking about. Because when I was out there in 22 measuring, the person in the home was eyeballing me because their car was there. Like, what's this guy doing with the car? But no, I was looking at this. So I think you're talking about this point right here.
Yeah.
Cause right here,
Mhm.
the right of way is 40 feet and the roadway width between the curbs is 24 feet.
Mhm.
So parking right on this section would do just like what you said,
Mhm.
really limit that.
Mhm.
The traffic study shows the majority of new traffic on 9th. It's possible that this area will need to be designated no parking, so it doesn't become
No parking, meaning the residents couldn't park in front of their homes.
in that segment, yeah, if it becomes a problem.
Yeah, I see it as a huge problem because all the way down Eighth Street, people park on the streets, not just their driveway. So my concern is just that, where are we going to park? What is going to help us get to our houses, to and from, with all of this construction going on and the bottleneck and all of that?
Well, the planning commission back in 22 was concerned about resident impact with at least the development of the subdivision, putting in the infrastructure, building the streets, doing all that stuff. And so that's why they recommended exploring traffic through the county or city public works site. So then the construction traffic would use Oregon Street
Okay, yeah,
and completely bypass the residential areas.
sense.
Now, that's not gonna help with the home builders or the residents.
Mhm.
And I've thought about 8th Street and it's something that where no parking may need to be posted more than just in that smaller area. But 9th Street, according to the traffic study, will take the majority of the traffic.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any testimony in opposition to the application? Okay. And if you would like, you have an opportunity for rebuttal, the applicants, if you guys want to say anything in response to any of those concerns.
Do I need to go up there or can I just sit here?
I think we can hear you better and it's better on record for those online if you're up here.
We're not trying to disturb anybody, obviously it's construction. I mean, you have development in the area. I mean, we went to the county roads department. We got them to sign a paper, allow us to do majority of the construction going right through there. Obviously, there will be some construction, but we can easily just tell all the construction workers after that, when we're not using that anymore, to just go down 9th Street. They would never go down 8th Street. That'd be a simple fix. But I think we want to work with the neighbors and work with the neighborhood and work with the city, right? And just come up with the best plan that fits for everybody. So totally open to anything, any suggestions. And that was actually the last time was brought up to go through the county yards by one of the commissioners, and we went to them and we were able to strike a deal and they were fine with it. So, yeah. So we're open. Okay. You're welcome.
Okay, does the commission have any final questions?
Well, can you see any other impacts? I mean, it seems like with the traffic and with the going to this new development, it's just a straight shot there and back for the most part. You have the 8th Street outlet, I will say, but it's it's a long continuous one street. So that's what I have a worry that, that's going to not only impact the people that are already there, how it's going to impact the people who buy these homes too.
It is an opportunity for Go Speed Racer Go. And that may be a reason you want on-street parking. Because if you don't have the on-street parking, you have this nice wide road. That's a good opportunity to do some hauling A.
Yes. Yeah. Can we also, to that matter, conditionalize it with some traffic calming apparatuses, speed bumps,
You could include traffic calming considerations, specifying speed bumps specifically.
I'm just saying as an example. speed bumps, just for that, that issue.
Yeah. Of course, that on-street parking is known as a traffic calmer because it provides that feeling of congestion. But yeah, yes, you could consider that condition, especially because of the variance for the extra long cul-de-sac. That would give you that leverage to think about things in addition to just the normal standards. If you felt so inclined.
It's just that, there's only one real access point to all this to me. And so it's just,
We'll have a minute to deliberate too, so. Once the record's closed. Do we have any more questions for? No? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public record. So we have no further questions from commission and no further responses from staff. Public record is closed. So the matter is returned to the table for deliberations and oral decision. So now it's time for commission to deliberate and vote. And fortunately, at this point, the commission should only talk about what is in the record. If the record is reopened, it needs to be reopened for everybody. This can complicate the matter and should be avoided. We want to stick to what we've talked about.
As you can probably guess from my initial question during the on the record portion, my most substantive concern is that and neither I nor I think anyone here is an expert on evacuation stats. So I would just want some way to double check that. I'm fine if that is extending until the next meeting so we can get Columbia Fire to give us an answer based on real numbers, or to take the other suggestion, just conditioning approval on those real numbers penciling out. But I think otherwise we've got some pretty good options to deal with the other concerns that have been raised.
Yeah, I agree. I have some concerns about fire trucks turning around. But if the cul-de-sac is properly sized, then, initially I was concerned with the response by CRFR, but I feel like we've had some of those concerns answered, I guess.
what we're saying before we closed it out, it's just that the access issue, for,
Make sure 9th lines up properly.
well, not just the 9th lining up, it's just, there's only a one road in and one road out. It makes it more difficult for folks to, have other alternatives. It'll be, because the traffic impact as it shows in the transportation study, it's a sizable increase. So it's would be something that would concern me if I was on that street.
Mhm. And I guess we know that just because you put up a no parking sign doesn't mean that you get to do it, but we would hope that they would, but with no parking on the block, or at least on one side.
That would be something, no parking on one side, just so you have more wiggle room.
Yeah. Do we have any motions? More deliberation?
And then from a motion standpoint,
Yes, thank you.
the proposed conditions, they're all pretty settled, except for at least as written. The one that, could use some tweaking is if you elect to consider no parking for the portion of the cul-de-sac. It's not the dead end. The dead end The bald portion already has the no parking, so for the other portion. Otherwise, it would be as recommended by staff.
Okay, and just for clarification, the sewer system. Housing.
Yeah, just as this gentleman asked, and I explained. Sure, just to clarify. Yeah, no, that's definitely worthy clarification.
What do you guys think about the parking thing?
Well, I'm looking for the criteria. Usually we have a criteria for fire variance. Each of like 5 different criteria, correct?
For a variance?
Yeah. And I'm just looking for, I saw it. Years ago, so. Sure, Jeff.
Yeah, that's gonna be in the 22 decision, which is an attachment of the report.
A lot of times we go through that, each one.
But if you want to understand the applicable condition, I can deal with that.
I don't think we have that, Scott, but I think.
So the variance will not be significant detrimental to the overall purposes of the code. There are special circumstances that exist which are peculiar to the size, topography, definitely meets that one. The use will be the same, it's still residential, it's still residential. Physical and natural systems, including traffic, will not be adversely affected any more than would occur if development were located as specified in the code. So that's something to think about. That's probably the most directly specific, especially because it calls out traffic. So do you think that the extra long cul-de-sac would have an adverse effect that would otherwise not be there? And do you think something like requiring no parking on one side would alleviate that? And you could stitch those issues together, extra long cul-de-sac, higher probability of blockages because of that extra length, and wanting more roadway width without parking to mitigate it. Those are reasonable dots to connect. If you were so inclined.
I'm willing to buy the argument that Columbia Fire is making, that a longer cul-de-sac is likely to generate some greater chance of blockage, or perhaps a more impactful blockage. I don't know if the chance is actually higher, but you know, if in their expertise they feel like it's more serious, fine. But yeah, I think that would be mitigatable by doing some no parking. And I think with that, I would consider the variance acceptable.
David, when you talk about no parking, are you talking one side or both sides of the street?
So my impression from the material that we've gone over and what we heard in the on the record portion is that one side would be sufficient. If people were so, you know, if other commissioners feel like that's not enough, I wouldn't, you know, I'm willing to sign on to both sides. But my impression is we only need to do one to address that concern from the material we've gotten.
That was my impression too, David.
Was there any other criteria? You're going through the list. Criteria for variance.
That was the key one.
Is there any other ones after that?
The only one after that was the hardship is not self-imposed. I don't think Sean traveled back in time, mined the site, let it lay
Decided.
for a long time. And then
Seems
developed
unlikely.
it, and then came in to develop a complex. If he was that.
I'm not sure.
He'd be doing that.
You might be sure, but I'm not.
No one can know for 100% sure.
Parking, no parking on one side seems sufficient,
So too.
and you're gonna want parking on some of the street.
Yeah.
For residents.
And also you have to consider the impact of one side of of this development is gonna have no parking in front of their place, while the other side is. So there's.
And
the
I
haves and
figure
have-nots
that'll,
then.
I figure that will have to be taken into account by people who are looking at purchasing those properties if they want to pay a premium for street side parking. I assume that the market takes care of that. Maybe my maybe my trust in the invisible hand is overstated.
And I also worry about the 8th Street no parking possibility. That impacts these adversely impacts the people on 8th Street then. It's another thing for consideration. I don't know if we have to really make that determination at this particular time.
I don't. I guess for me, that's something that comes up if it comes up. And if their
That-
traffic study denotes that 9th will be the main, with that big right of way. And if you've been in the area, that makes the most sense, logistically.
Just want to know that, people know that we do, are thinking about
You
these.
care about your neighborhood.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, I'm all right with that variance about the no parking on one side. It would be nice to have clarification from the fire department about what their needs are too. And, maybe conditionalize it for that.
Well, they talk about wanting to ensure the 20-foot roadway width. And if you have a 30-foot wide roadway width with parking on one side, you're increasing the probability that that 20 feet is going to be maintained. Because you only have parking on one side, assuming it's properly enforced and all that stuff. And they do talk about that 20-foot width in their memo.
So with the
Standard.
with the no parking one side, then we would have to conditionalize it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you're giving them that extra buffer in compensation for the extra long cul-de-sac.
And
Well,
my-
I would be comfortable proposing that we approve this with the one side street, no parking. Again, I'd be interested in somehow making that conditional on or getting some more feedback from Columbia Fire about the evacuation numbers, but I think there are a variety of ways that could be phrased. And honestly, I think that when they realize we're not talking about 500 people, we're instead talking about the low hundreds, I suspect it's going to be fine.
I would agree with that. Are you making a motion, David?
I will motion that we approve these variances with the condition that there is no parking on one side of the street, and that we receive positive communication from Columbia Fire and Rescue about evacuation once we give them the actual inhabitant numbers or the accurate inhabitant numbers.
I will second that.
Okay, so Commissioner Kingsbury,
But I,
Commissioner Herman,
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay. Commissioner Jacobson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rosengard,
Aye.
And based on me priming that discussion, I'm assuming that is based on all of the conditions that are proposed,
Yep.
that we didn't have to, there's the no parking one that
yes.
really suggested we were gonna talk about, and we were right. Okay, good, thank you. And then a motion for signature.
Okay,
Motion for chair to sign.
Seconded.
okay, Commissioner Kingsbury. Aye. Commissioner Herman,
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobson,
Aye.
Commissioner Rosengard,
Aye.
we all good?
Fantastic.
Okay, so
Thank you.
the final written decision of the planning commission may be appealed to the city council. The notice of decision will be mailed to all persons who testified or submitted comments, and the appeal deadline will be included. Okay. I have a handy script. Thanks, Tina.
No, I'm talking about.
Oh, all of this, yes. Been looking at it for weeks. Okay, so I guess we have, planning director decisions. Everybody probably has seen all those and read them. If anybody has any questions about those.
First new gas station, and I don't know how long. What about-
I know.
I figured they all did.
And they're so nice. Those people are so nice. Okay, so we don't really have any discussion items. Do we have anything for architectural standards or vacant underutilized storefronts?
I couldn't get it together with Erin this week, this month, where I was busy and she was busy, so.
It's that time of year.
So there's nothing new on that. So.
Okay. So I really thought this was gonna be, do we have anything from city council?
Think so.
Let's just go through
I
it.
might find out tomorrow, but
Can you be more brief on that?
I could, but I won't.
And tomorrow is 4 p.m., correct?
Yes.
Yes. So do we have any for your information items?
I haven't done anything on the parking. They said I was going to. So I've been busy with things that I should have thought about before making that commitment. But I will get on it. I swear.
Okay, so is that everything?
Yeah, just a reminder, we have the joint meeting tomorrow, if you can make it.
Yeah, I will not be able to make it because I forgot about it and didn't then.
Yeah, it's 4 o'clock. It's
It's a tough time for me. but Usually I try to plan it. Okay, so if that's it, and I guess we are adjourned.
Thanks all.
First time, bro?
That's my first time.
Pretty good. I would have been
Really?
bubbling through that whole. Quasi judicial, I would have been.
Well, I was practicing today. As soon as